Hello everyone, and welcome to today's oil painting time-lapse and studio sessions episode 18. Real quick before I begin, I wanted to remind you guys that I'm having a special back to school sale on my website. So if you want to get 20% off of your order, just use the code BACKTOSCHOOL at happyd-artist.com. And the sale ends September 30th. So, in the spirit of back to school and education, I'm really excited to be partnering up with my friends over at SKILLSHARE again to bring you guys a special back to school offer. SKILLSHARE is an amazing online learning community where you can find thousands of hours of courses in various topics, ranging from drawing to technology to cooking and many, many more. For a limited time, you can try it out for free for 2 months, no strings attached. I've learned how to improve my calligraphy, anatomy, and many other artistic skills from Skillshare, and I sincerely believe you guys will find it enriching too. I'll have more info in the description if you're interested in checking it out. And today's topic of discussion definitely has a lot to do with the theme of learning and education. It's in regards to the number one type of question that I get asked from every single social media platform on pretty much a daily basis, and that is, how do I get better at art, or how do I improve my skills as an artist? And this is an almost impossible question to answer with just words, and I think I've spent a lot of my time and my content on YouTube and other social media platforms also trying to tackle this question. And every artist that you ask will probably unanimously answer practice, practice, practice. But what does practicing actually mean? It's such a vague term, and we all know that practice makes perfect. It's a very, very common saying, but I really wanted to take the time in this video to give you guys some concrete examples and tips on how you can practice in a way that actually helps you improve. So hopefully you guys will find these tips useful. Again, like with every single one of my videos, this is all based on my personal experience, so feel free to chime in if you also have some fun or useful tips to share. I would love it if we could all help each other learn and spread our knowledge. So, first things first, I think it's really important to make time to practice. And a lot of times when art isn't your major, or if it's not your career and you're not in art school and you simply do it as a hobby, it's really hard to find the time in your busy day to sit down and practice. So the number one tip I have is to simply set up a schedule for yourself, a practice schedule. And how you can do that is you can just take a look at your current workload, your current schedule, and see how many pockets of free time you have that you could be able to set aside every day to practice art. And you may find that you have to sacrifice time that you would normally spend having fun or relaxing or socializing. But I feel like if art and improving your art is something that you truly care about, it will be worth the sacrifice. So after you find some pockets of free time in your day to set aside for practicing, then it's time to set up some sort of daily or weekly or monthly goal for how many hours you actually want to commit to practicing. If you're still in school or you have a full-time job or people to take care of, it's unrealistic to expect yourself to practice for 8 to 10 hours a day. But you could totally, have a goal of, let's say, 8 or 10 hours a week, or perhaps 40 hours a month, or something like that. And as long as you track how many hours that you put into practicing, you can definitely always make sure you're on the right pace to fulfill your daily, weekly, monthly goals. And, regardless of how you spend your time, the first and foremost most important factor in improving is to spend the time to invest the time to begin with. So setting up a schedule and holding yourself accountable to your weekly and monthly practice goals, I think, is the most important tip that you can do. The second tip that I have is to hold yourself accountable to your deadlines and your goals. Treat it almost as a job and don't just brush it off. It's kind of like if you really care about your fitness, you have to force yourself to go to the gym even if you feel tired or lazy. The same philosophy applies to art. Even if you don't feel like practicing that day, if it's on your schedule, you have to hold yourself accountable and you have to do it anyway. And this might not sound fun, but it's not always going to be fun if you want to truly improve. It's a learning process. It's a process of failing and picking yourself back up and making mistakes and correcting yourself. So it's not always going to be a relaxing time, but it will pay off in the end. And speaking of fun, the next tip I have is quite important as well, and that is to make sure to not skip important steps in your artistic development. And while you don't have to follow the traditional art school or classroom formula, I think there is a lot of merit in the way that art students were taught traditionally in the classroom and in art schools. Even in many other industries and trades, such as sports or music or dance, the basic drills and exercises are the foundation upon which you build your creativity and individuality. For example, if you want to learn how to play the guitar and become a songwriter, before diving into composing and performing your own songs, you must first learn how to read sheet music and practice chords, etc. If you want to be a basketball star, you have to first devote countless hours into practicing your three-pointers, your free throws, and making sure you have the physical stamina to handle all that heavy cardio. So the same philosophy applies to art as well. You have to take it one step at a time. For example, normally you probably want to start honing your drawing skills before you dive into oil painting. And this is something they will definitely teach you in art school as well. Drawing, especially with a simple black and white graphite pencil, can really help you learn the proper rules of anatomy, perspective, shading, composition, etc., without worrying about how to tackle a complicated medium like oil. And I also recommend starting off with monochromatic pieces before diving into color. So learning the proper values and shading and lights and darks can bring so much more depth and realism to your pieces. And color, while it adds so much, it definitely complicates things a lot for a beginner. And, mediums like oil painting complicates the entire creative process even more. So you want to make sure you are confident in your fundamental skills before you try to tackle these more difficult levels. And while you're practicing, I would urge you to not take any shortcuts. Don't do things like tracing or copying other people's art. Definitely using photo reference or drawing from still life is a good thing and can definitely help you improve, because you are translating something you see with your eyes, like a photograph or a still life, onto something that you draw on your paper. And that process of transitioning from a real life object to something drawn or something painted is what helps you improve your realism and your rendering skills. But don't copy someone else's artwork and don't trace. And it's definitely normal to go through a long phase of maybe boring and repetitive practice sessions. Like, I remember as a kid in the beginning, I really loved copying cartoons and animes when I doodled, and I never practiced my fundamental skills. I simply just traced or copied my favorite Sailor Moon art, and I became so reliant on someone else's skills that as soon as I didn't have any other artwork to use as reference, I was completely lost. And there was a huge drop in quality between my art when I was able to take a shortcut to just copy someone else's art, and my art when I had to rely on my own skills to draw from real life or from a photograph. So after that, I abandoned the cartoon and anime route, and instead I spent years doing pencil drawings of geometric solids like spheres and pyramids and things like that. And then I moved on to simple still lifes like, plates of apples or various vegetables. And doing these exercises definitely equipped me to better prepare for doing portraits. So I was then able to break down the complicated human anatomy into many simpler shapes, which I was already familiar and comfortable with drawing from all of my exercises. And I think that overall the difference between doodling for fun and actually honing your skills to one day become proficient in art, to be good enough to be a professional artist, the difference lies in your intent during these practice sessions. And I hope that the tips that I gave you today will help you practice with better intentions and help you set yourself on the right path. And I know that, a simple 10-minute video only grazes the surface of the plethora of ways you can effectively teach yourself. But I hope that this video was useful and that it can at least help guide your mind in the right direction in your next at-home practice session. So that is about it for today. I hope you guys have an awesome time going back to school, and I hope you learn lots of things. Thank you all so much for your support and for liking and commenting and subscribing. You guys are the best, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye!